welcome back to another great episode of the Sports Junkies. This is one of the most exciting times of the year. We got college football. We got the NFL playoffs coming up. The NBA has finally started, and everyone's talking about the year, what happened, the year review, not to mention there's all this hot stove baseball going on. Things are exciting in the world of sports right now, and we're going to talk about it today. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm Thomas Brookwalter, your host, along with the usual suspects, David Frias and Ben Baker. Guys, nice to have you guys back, as usual. And we're going to start with college football, and that seems to be the most relevant topic right now because it's happening. It's the postseason. We got a lot of bowl games, 35 bowl games to go through, and a lot of them have already been played. So we're going to go over to Dave for a scoreboard update with the games that have already been played. Dave, over to you.
Thanks, Tom. It's good to be here again. And let's start off with the famous Idaho Potato Bowl that led off the college bowl season. And it was University of Ohio defeating Utah State by a score of 24-23. Then we had the Beef O'Brady's Bowl, which was Florida International versus Marshall, and Marshall won by a score of 20-10. The Mako Bowl in Las Vegas featuring Boise State and Arizona State in Kellen Moore's last game as a Bronco, and Boise State easily won by a score of 56-24. The Independence Bowl, which was in Shreveport, Louisiana, was Missouri defeating North Carolina, the Tar Heels, by a score of 41-24. The GoDaddy.com Bowl, that's actually going to be on January the 8th. But before that, the New Mexico Bowl, one little head here.
Yeah, it was a good preview. People know what's coming up. Let's go.
Then we'll give the rundown of the future bowl games coming up soon. But in the past bowl games this year, it was Temple defeating Wyoming by a score of 37-15. The R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl featuring San Diego State and Louisiana Lafayette, and Lafayette won by a score of 32-30. The Ponciano Bowl was TCU defeating Louisiana Tech by a score of 31-24. The Hawaii Bowl featuring Nevada and Southern Miss won by a score of 24-17. The Little Caesars Bowl in Detroit, Michigan was Purdue, the Boilermakers, defeating Western Michigan by a score of 37-32. And last night, the Cal Bears in the Holiday Bowl lost to the Longhorns of Texas by a score of 21-10.
All right. So that's it for all the games that have happened so far.
Yes, and you'll give the rundown.
Yeah.
The International Championship.
All right, we have.
And he's already done the GoDaddy.com Bowl, so you can skip that one.
It's all downhill right here.
You can repeat it if you want.
No, that's all right. So we have two games today. The Florida Citrus Bowl in Orlando. That's where it's at. Sorry, the Champs Sports Bowl. They had the bowl in both parts of the names.
Yep, yeah.
Easy mistake to make. All right, Florida State and Notre Dame go head-to-head. That game's actually going on right now. And Reeves from Notre Dame having a big year this year, 2,700 yards passing and 19 TDs. Florida State's quarterback, Manuel, having 2,417 yards and 16 TDs. Might be a bit of a shootout. And then tonight, Washington versus Baylor. And the whole country's on the edge of their seats for that one to see Robert Griffin III, or should I say RG3.
Heisman Trophy, yeah. 2
yards short of 4,000 this year, but I think we'll probably pass it in this game. 36 TDs. And, of course, the Heisman Trophy. And he's facing Washington, who's got Price as their quarterback with 2,600 yards and 29 touchdowns. Not too bad himself. And I really think Baylor's going to take this one, though. We'll give our picks for these in a second. And then tomorrow at noon Eastern, we've got BYU versus Tulsa. And Tulsa's quarterback, Kinney's really the highlight there with 2,876 yards passing and 25 touchdowns. And then tomorrow afternoon, only the second of 4 games playing consecutively, I think, all on ESPN. We've got Iowa State and Rutgers. Neither one of the passers really has given you the kind of yards that you would write home about, but should be a close, well-fought game. And then we got Mississippi State and Wake Forest playing tomorrow evening. Mississippi State has a quarterback with only 1,083 yards and 9 touchdowns. So you have to wonder, maybe is he filling in for someone? Unless you live in Mississippi State, and then you probably know your team better than I do. Then the
Hopefully.
Yeah. The Wake Forest quarterback, he's got 2,800 yards and 20 touchdowns, so you got to be pretty good. Iowa and Oklahoma facing off tomorrow night at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. And Oklahoma, of course, a little bit of a letdown this year, but still a very good team. Their quarterback I was hearing earlier, the past 3 games, I think, 5 interceptions and no touchdowns thrown. Obviously, that's not what you want from your quarterback. He's still amassed.
Especially down the stretch, yeah.
4,300 yards and 28 touchdowns on the season, but no BCS title game, as a lot of people pick them to go to in the preseason. All right, and then this weekend, New Year's Eve, got Cincinnati versus Vanderbilt. Both quarterbacks kind of just putting up so-so numbers. So, honestly, I don't know too much about these teams, but if you're watching TV at noon on New Year's Eve, tune into Cincinnati and Vanderbilt. And then
It's a hot tip.
yeah, that's a hot tip. Stone cold lock.
There you go.
All right.
That's Ben's stone cold lock of the day. There,
Boom.
you've already got it covered. That's your lock.
If you're not doing anything, maybe watch the game. All right. And then Illinois versus UCLA tomorrow afternoon at AT&T Park. It's the Fight Hunger Bowl. UCLA's Prince at quarterback, 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. UCLA got into this bowl with a 6-7 record, and I think had to appeal to get a bowl game.
Right, and they won. They were in the Pac-12 title game because they won the other division of the Pac-12. That was, and I know you're an Oregon fan, Ben, so I'm sure you have an opinion on this. They were probably a little overmatched, and a lot of people are thinking, why were they even in the Pac-12 title game? Because that was a complete mismatch right there.
Yeah, but as we all know, it's a game of streaks. And so if UCLA comes into the game hot, then maybe they've got a chance
Oregon.
to
That would have been a fun
Illinois.
Pac-12 championship game right there. Stanford and Oregon.
Oh, I would like to see that again. Yep. So yeah, UCLA and then Illinois' quarterback, Shkilas, or something similar to that, has 1,971 yards and 12 touchdowns on the season. I always think of Illinois as a little bit of a rushing team too, so I think we might see some
Fighting
hard-nosed
Illini.
football. The Fighting Illini, that's right. All right, so then also following that game is the Chick-fil-A Bowl. Never missed that one. Virginia and Auburn. Auburn, of course, without Cam Newton this year. Obviously not the same team they were last year, but still having a pretty good season. Their quarterback this year only with 1,009 yards passing and 10 touchdowns. Obviously no Cam Newton. Then University of Virginia's Rocco with 2,359 yards and 11 TDs. You have to wonder if Virginia might take this one from Auburn, even though over the past, decade or so, Auburn's been a pretty dominant
Well, it's got to be a little
team.
bit of a letdown for Auburn as well. I mean, they were in and won the BCS title game last year.
That's right.
So to be, it's kind of a big fall. I mean, Oregon is going to be in a they were the team that lost the BCS game last year. They're going to be in another BCS bowl. They're still very highly ranked, and Auburn got let down.
Yep. I probably go into this more later, but I think Oregon's got the kind of intuitive offensive game plan that kind of, even if they didn't have the best players and they had the system that they do, they could still beat some teams that they might seem overmatched against on paper. So then that's it for New Year's Eve, and then there's no games on New Year's Day this year. I think it's a little bit of a travesty. I don't know how everybody else feels about that.
And I was talking about this with a friend a couple of days ago. I think the thing is that this year, New Year's Day, obviously, as we know, is on a Sunday. What's Sunday? Week 17 of the NFL.
So there you go.
Ratings-wise, let's face it, no one wants to take on the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Rose Bowl with the Rose Parade and the game could probably give an NFL game a run for its money.
Sure, especially in the morning early.
Especially in the morning,
Already
exactly.
had 2 weeks of college bowl games. They could have a day off. I mean,
Yeah.
and then you're going to go. I mean, there's the next day, right?
The next.
It's just, it does seem, I think Ben was right to bring that up. It does seem a little weird that there's nothing on January 1st, but
Got the NFL.
it's hard to take on the NFL ratings-wise for anybody.
Sure, yeah. The next day we have the Ticket City Bowl being played at the Cotton Bowl. That's Houston against Penn State. And let's just say Houston, we have a problem with the other team. We'll leave it at that. But Houston's Case Keenum. Case
Dun,
Keenum?
dun, dun.
Keenum has got over 5,000 yards passing with
that's a record.
45 touchdowns this year.
5,000 yards. I think that's for a single season. That's a quarterback passing record.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I heard that. He might be the first one ever to get 5,000.
Yep.
So great year for Keenum, and here's one person hoping that you really stick it to Penn State. And okay, so after that game, you got also on Monday the Outback Bowl between Michigan State and Georgia. Two teams that were very strong this year. We're starting to get to those games where teams are well above 500. And Michigan State's Cousins thrown for over 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns, and Georgia's Murray thrown for 2,800 yards and 33 touchdowns. Should be a really good game. I've seen both these teams at least once this year, and both times been impressed. They're really good teams. And then getting into Ohio State versus Florida is the Gator Bowl. Also, at the same time, actually, as the Outback Bowl. Ohio State's Millard, really only 997 yards passing and 11 touchdowns. Florida's Brantley with 1,900 yards and 10. I think we'll probably be doing some switching back and forth there. I don't know which one's the more interesting game. Personally, I think I'll watch Michigan State, Georgia. But
I might watch Florida or Ohio State. I mean, the thing is, I mean, you're right. I think both games can be really good. Is that, Florida had those, the last, when Tebow was still there, they had those years where they were the dominant team in college football. And Ohio State's always been in the top 25. I mean, I think when they dropped out this year, it was like their first time in a couple of decades that they weren't in the top 25. It might have been the first time in my life that they weren't in the top 25.
They're going to be out of the bowls for the next few years. I think they're under probation. The Buckeyes.
Yeah, what I mean, but that's just an interesting game with two teams who the last few years have been two of the powers of college football.
Sure.
Now neither of them are ranked, and neither of them are in BCS.
Yeah, definitely disappointing year for Ohio State as well.
Yeah.
I think both those teams are coming in actually with records right around 500, if I'm not mistaken. So. Well, kind of it's like a battle of the letdown teams.
Well, Ben, why don't we do this instead of before we get, I know you were going to run down, the next, of course, we're going to get into the BCS. That's always what everyone wants to talk about. Why don't we do our predictions for the bowl games you just did, and then we'll go into BCS.
That sounds good.
Okay, great. All right, so Ben's going to get out a piece of paper right there. I gave him a pen and write down what we all predict for each game.
All right.
So I'll run it down. And just for fun for you Las Vegas buffs, I'll give the spread. All right. So why don't we start with today's games, Ben? You mentioned the Champs Sports Bowl. Florida State is favored over Notre Dame by a field goal.
I actually like Notre Dame in this one. I think they've had a very strong year, their best one in a few years, and just kind of going off of the way I've seen Florida State play in the past, I don't know if this is their best team coming into this game. I think it will be close, should be a good game, but I like Notre Dame.
I'm going to say Florida State. They're the favorites, and I think Notre Dame in the last 5, 6 years, when they play really, really athletic football teams, they struggle, even at home. And Florida State, they're not the powerhouse that they were in the 90s with Coach Bowden, but I think they'll be athletic enough, and I see them beating the Irish.
Yeah, I think you're always wary of picking a unranked team against a ranked team, too. I mean, Florida State's number 25. Notre Dame is unranked. But I do agree with Ben that Notre Dame, I think, took a giant step forward this year. And as a Notre Dame fan, that was good to see, that they're finally maybe heading in the right direction. But I think for this game, I'm going to go on the cautious side and go with Dave and pick Florida State.
All right, wow.
As a Notre Dame fan, that hurts me, but I'm gonna be safe and go with Florida State on this one. I will say I hope I'm wrong. Right. Okay, let's go to the Alamo Bowl. Ben discussed that earlier. I think you pretty much said Baylor was well favored. They are favored by 9 points. Let's put it this way: anyone not think Baylor will win this game? Okay, we can move on now.
RG3, baby. So I'll put you all down for Baylor.
There you go. They got the Heisman Trophy winner. They're favored by 9. We'll pick them to win. All right, let's go to Friday, the Armed Forces Bowl. Tulsa and BYU. There's another close matchup. Tulsa favored by a point. Dave, we'll start with you.
You want to go with me? That should be a close game, but I see BYU. They always have good offenses, college football. So I'm going to go with the Cougars.
Ben, I think this is where you and I, we were talking about this before we went on, wish we had a computer in here because we can look up, we're in that college you pick 'em league, and we can just look up our picks right now and see what we each went with. But go ahead.
I also I would disagree. I like Tulsa in this game. The Hurricane, I believe, plans to rock
Golden Hurricane.
BYU. The Golden Hurricane.
Yep.
There's a big difference there, Dave.
Yep.
All right, I'll go with, I probably won't always agree with Dave, but I'm going to agree with Dave in this one. I'm going to take the small upset. I'm going to go with BYU.
2 in a row.
2 in a row. Exactly. All right. The Pinstripe Bowl, which, as you could probably tell by the name, is being played at the new Yankee Stadium.
right.
Which we can get into in another show. I think the old Yankee Stadium should still be standing. But anyway, Rutgers at Iowa State. Rutgers favored by 2, but don't forget, guys, Iowa State had a huge upset this year in knocking off Oklahoma State. Right when Oklahoma State was the 3rd-ranked team in the nation, it looked like it might be headed for a possible shot at the title game. Iowa State knocked them off.
Well, since you put that stat out there, I'm going to go with Iowa State. I think,
I've convinced you.
Yeah, you have. And Iowa State, I can't recall the name of the running back, but they seem to always have a good running game going, and I think Iowa State will win.
Ben?
I also like Iowa State. I think they actually pulled a second upset this year that was pretty good, and they play in a tough division. We've heard about them more than usual this year, so I have a feeling this is a solid team going against a Rutgers team that I think is also pretty good. But I'm going to take ISU in a close one. Sorry for coughing like a cat.
Well, it was interesting because when the next week after Iowa State beat Oklahoma State, they played Oklahoma. So the question was, can they do it again? And of course Oklahoma beat them, but it was still that was a very fun weekend with a lot of upsets, if I remember correctly. I'm going to go with my first disagreement with Dave. I'm going with Rutgers. I'll go with Rutgers on this one. I'll be the odd man out, since you guys went with Iowa State. Rutgers favored by 2. I'll go with Rutgers. All right, let's go to the Music City Bowl, which, as you can probably guess, is in Nashville. Mississippi State favored by 6.5 over Wake Forest, who did have some very impressive performances during the regular season. Ben, let's start with you this time.
I like Mississippi State. I think they're pretty heavily favored, if I remember. And between two teams that I really don't know that well, I'm going to go with the line on this one, Mississippi State.
I'm going to go with Wake Forest. I think they've played Stanford the last few years, and I see them. They're in the ACC as well, so there's ACC teams are pretty tough. So I'm going to go with Wake Forest.
I will go with it's 2 for 2 now. 2 and 2, Dave, because I'm going to go with Mississippi State. One of these times I have to pick a team that's not favored, though. It has to happen. On the Insight Bowl, Oklahoma favored by 14 over Iowa. Do we even need to go there?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a big letdown year for Oklahoma, and like they were saying, the guy, no touchdowns and 5 interceptions in the last 3 games, but still 4,300 yards, 28 TDs in the year. I think Oklahoma's just a little bit off, but not far enough to lose to Iowa in this one. I think, and they're looking for a redemption game to not close out the year on a bad note.
Absolutely. So we're all going.
Yeah. Sooners.
Okay, we're all going with
Sooners.
Oklahoma. Perfect. All right, Saturday, New Year's Eve, the Kraft Fight Hunger Bowl, formerly known as the Emerald Bowl at AT&T Park. Illinois favored by 3 over UCLA, and I'll go first this time, just to change it up, if you guys don't mind.
Go for it, Tom.
I think I'm going to go with Illinois. I think, we discussed UCLA, Ben mentioned it during the rundown. They basically had to beg to get into a bowl game. And they barely, I still don't quite see, it was just a divisional thing that got them into the Pac-12 title game, which they really had no business being in. I like the Fighting Illini in this, Illinois.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go with Illinois as well, but I'm still it bothers me a lot that UCLA gets to be in a bowl game at a 5-6 record. In past years, there have been other programs that had similar records, and you're out. You're not going to make the College Bowl. And then, the Pac-12, I've seen it as a success so far, but with the USC on probation and UCLA playing for the championship, it just kind of throws me off a bit. I mean, just throws it off a bit. And hopefully USC, I don't know what year they'll be off probation, but I think until then, I think if you're going to have a team with a losing record in a bowl in the championship. Divisional, like Pac-10 championship, Pac-12 championship, and then go to the bowl game, even when you've lost the last few games. It bothers me. And then they're playing here in San Francisco, of all things.
Which begs the question.
Because they're in California.
Which begs the question we can always discuss at some point, whether, because we've seen last year, talking about UCLA, last year the Seattle Seahawks got into the playoffs with a record of 7-9. Should teams under 500 make the postseason? That's a great debate we can have sometime. But Ben, go ahead.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. There's definitely going to be some teams. There are some teams, I'm sure, saying, how did a 6 and 7 team get in? And yeah, we might be in a small conference, but we maybe only lost 2 games and they didn't get in. I assume there's some teams that good not making it.
Another issue with the BCS rankings. That's another topic. But
and
lots of times come up in college football. It's a great sport.
I think we have to wonder if maybe Illinois' leading late or maybe even behind if we're going to start hearing some beat LA chants at AT&T.
We will, don't
I'm
worry.
taking the Illini. Beat LA.
Okay, all right, so we all go with Illinois.
Yeah.
Great. Let's move on to the Card Carrier Bowl. Texas A&M favored by 10 over Northwestern.
That one's not even on my-
I'll go with A&M. I mean,
Texas
they're
A&M?
favored by double digits. I'm going to
Yeah.
go with A&M.
Yeah, I haven't really seen much of these two teams, so I'm just going to go with whoever's the favorite in this one. And Texas A&M, I think they should win that one.
You know, I think I missed that one altogether. When is that game?
It is Saturday, New Year's Eve.
It's not on here.
Oh, okay. Well, you come to it when you get the chance.
I'm taking A&M.
A&M,
We're
okay.
all,
Go
yeah.
with the favorite.
All right, the Sun Bowl
Heavily
against two
favored,
pretty
too.
good teams in El Paso. Georgia Tech favored by 2.5 over Utah.
I'm going to go with Georgia Tech, the ACC team. I think they've had a good season, good college football season, and I think they've always had good wide receivers. Calvin Johnson, I believe, name a few. So hopefully for them, the Yellow Jackets, they'll get the win there.
Yeah, okay. Good, Ben.
I also like the Yellow Jackets in this one, and it's also not on my sheet. I'm wondering if maybe this only has the televised games, or what's the story on that.
Maybe Dave hit it when we were eating lunch. I don't know.
Georgia Tech's having a good season, though. I think they're going to win this one.
Yeah, I'll go with Georgia Tech as well. All right, the Liberty Bowl. Vanderbilt favored by a point over Cincy.
Go with the Bearcats, Cincinnati.
I agree.
I'm actually taking Vanderbilt in this one. Don't know a ton about either team, but I think Vanderbilt is having a good season.
Okay, the Chick-fil-A Bowl, Auburn and Virginia. I will go with Auburn in this one. I mean, we talked about during the rundown. It's a bit of a drop down for them for the national title game, but I think they're still a pretty good team. I think, Ben, you mentioned you thought it would be a really good game. I agree, but I'm going to have to go with Auburn.
Yeah, I'll go with Auburn as well. It seems like even teams that powerhouses like Florida State, Auburn, even when they have an off year, when they make it to the bowl, they usually are favorite and they usually win those games. So I'll go with Auburn.
I'm taking Virginia in an upset. I think it'll be close, but there's a reason Virginia's in a bowl game and they play in a tough division. So, and look, Rocco, 2,300 yards. He's not having a bad season. Auburn's quarterback only with 1,000. Seems pretty suspect to me. They'll probably rely a lot on the run, and if Virginia can shut that down, then they should win.
All right. Okay. Let's hit the BCS bowls then. We got the Fiesta Bowl coming up. Big local interest on this one because, of course, the Stanford Cardinal are in it. They are playing Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State is actually favored by 3.5. Let's do a little build-up for this game, featuring two of the country's best quarterbacks. Oklahoma State's Brandon Weeden, Stanford's Andrew Luck. What do you guys think?
I like OK State. I think they were really, really close to going undefeated this year, playing in a really tough conference. Stanford's obviously a really good team too, but I like OK State.
So far we've done the rundown of the college football bowl season and upcoming games. This is one game you want to see. If you want to see offense, good offense, you're going to see two of the best right here with Oklahoma State, I think, with Weeden and with Andrew Luck, who will probably be the number one draft choice, top quarterback chosen in the upcoming NFL 2012 draft. And of course, I'm going to pick Stanford, the local team here in the Bay Area. But I think it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be in the high 40s. So if there's any bowl game you want to watch other than the national championship, I'd say this is the one you got to see. Local team, Andrew Luck's last game in college, and hopefully Stanford, the Cardinals, will pull it out.
Well, I think that obviously you talk about being a shootout. I think Stanford played in one of the best shootouts of the year in that triple overtime game against USC. That was a really fun game to watch. I can't pick against Stanford. I think Oklahoma State's going to play very well. It's going to be a very tough game, but I'm going to go local. I'm going to go with Stanford as well. In the interest of time, let's skip ahead real quick. If we can, we'll go back. To the BCS National Championship game. Number one LSU, number one, I was right. Number one LSU, number two Alabama. Now these two teams did play each other on November 5th in Tuscaloosa. It was an all-field goal game with LSU winning 9-6. Now when they're not playing each other, they average 40 points a game.
Wow.
Offensively, their defense is ranked number 1 and 2 nationally. This is going to be a good one. What do you guys think?
I'm going to go with LSU. Alabama, I actually think I picked them the first time they played each other, and it ended up being a 9-6 game.
I'll look it up. I have the pool. I'll look it up later.
Sure. But I don't know. LSU has maybe looked a little bit more dominant this season. Someone probably tell me they disagree, but I think in a close one, and probably, hopefully, one of the great college games that's happened in recent memory, I think LSU is going to take it.
Yeah, it's going to be a great national title game, and the interesting thing is that they're both two SEC teams, and it seems like in the last few years, the SEC has just totally dominated college football.
Absolutely.
Not only in teams, we had Florida, and then Auburn, and now you have Alabama and LSU, and a lot of these college football players end up going into the NFL and doing really well. So this is going to be a low-scoring game, a great defensive game. I think LSU has the best defense in college football, though. And it wouldn't surprise me to see another low-scoring affair, but I'll say the Tigers will be the national champions.
LSU. All right, yeah. All right. You know what? I'll go for fun. I'm gonna go with the upset on this. I'm gonna go with Auburn. Alabama.
That was last year, Tom.
Yes, really, that was last year. Thank you. Go with Alabama. I think they've been a very good team the last couple of years. So has LSU, but I think Nick Saban they have a little more experience in the BCS bowls the last couple of years than LSU does in the championship games. So I think it'll be very close, but the defense come. I'm going to go. I'll take a risk here and go with Nick Saban's Alabama Crimson Tide.
All right.
And all right, now we are almost out of time. So real quick here, what game are you guys most looking forward to?
Oh, the BCS title. I think everybody's chalking it up to be a really good game, and I have to agree with the experts. Those teams have been neck and neck every year, whooping on their opponents, and then when they came down to play once this year, it was really close. So I'm looking forward to that game.
Let me just say, besides the BCS title game, I am looking forward to the Rose Bowl. Number 5 Oregon, number 10 Wisconsin. You got two of the country's best running backs in LaMichael James of Oregon and Monty Bell for Wisconsin. That could be a shootout with those two great running games. That could be a lot of fun. I definitely want to see. I want to see the Rose Bowl this year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I pretty much just mentioned the national title game in Stanford, Oklahoma State.
Great. All right. Well, you know what? No matter what, it's going to be a really fun bowl season, all culminating in the BCS title game. We'll see you guys next time.